Hola guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Roxanne. If it's your first time here, then welcome. Today I want to talk to you guys about the books that I read while I was on vacation. So the next 5 books that I have read recently. And I'm actually quite pleased about the fact that I was able to finish 5 books during vacation. I really didn't think I was. I took a bunch of books with me, but you know how it is. We say we're gonna read a lot during vacation and then we get distracted and other things happen. But I was actually able to read a lot, which, you know, like I said, very excited about. So the first that actually, this is in no particular order. The first that I'm going to talk about is The Sun and Her Flowers by Rupi Kaur. This is Rupi Kaur's second poetry collection. And I want to start off by saying that I know almost nothing about poetry. I don't remember anything that I learned in school. I don't know the types of poetry. I am not equipped to discuss poetry in the way that I feel I would want to, but at the same time, I enjoy reading it. So I know that a lot of people don't think what she does is poetry. A lot of people don't think this sort of Instagram modern poetry is poetry or can be considered or should be considered poetry. I don't know what, and I don't feel equipped to sort of add to that conversation. So I'm just going to talk about my experience reading her words, whether you consider them poetry or not. And I think a lot of what she has to say is very powerful. A lot of it, maybe not poetry, but more so like a mantra that you can just read and repeat to yourself and just feel emotions as you're experiencing it, if that makes people feel better. But this one I felt was more personal and the topics that she discussed more mature. There is, I would say, content warning for sexual assault in this one for sure, the first part of it. So like her first book, this one is divided into sections, and it is wilting, falling, rooting, rising, and blooming. And she talks about sexual assault, learning to both love herself, learning what it's like to hate herself, the relationship that she has with her parents, topics like immigration and refugee issues of refugee crises around the world, and those that affect her personally, about falling back in love with herself and with someone else, learning to trust. And she does all of that through the imagery of flowers, of flowers growing. And I thought it was beautiful. I thought there were a lot of moments in here that were very touching and that I personally was able to relate to, and so I enjoyed it. And if that kind of poetry or whatever is your thing, then I recommend this one. I also read The Wedding Date by Jasmine Guillory. This is a romance book about 2 individuals who meet in an elevator by accident after the elevator gets stuck and they're both in there. It is a black female lawyer who is now working with the governor of California, or no, the mayor of her town, I think San Francisco maybe, and then a doctor. Their names are Drew and Alexa. And so they start off with a very sort of flirty, playful banter in the elevator, and he somehow manages to get her to agree to pretend to be his date, and then that progresses into pretending to be his girlfriend at the wedding that he's attending that weekend in this city. And she agrees and she goes and they have a great time, and then they continue to agree to meet each other every weekend, and of course it develops into something more. And I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really lighthearted and fun and entertaining and interesting, and I missed the characters after I was done reading it, which says something about how I was able to quickly connect with them. It is very fast-paced. It is a cute, super cute romance book. I hadn't read one of those in a really long time, and so I thought this was a great way to kind of hop back onto the romance wagon per se, and I really enjoyed it, and I definitely recommend it. And because they are a mixed race couple, some issues of race come up, and I think they're handled really well, and in a way that a couple maybe should address things like that if they are a mixed race couple, just with a lot of being very open-minded and listening to what the other person has to say. And I just really enjoyed it, and I recommend it. Then I read The Murder at the Vicarage, a Miss Marple mystery by Agatha Christie. This is the first Miss Marple book, though someone did bring to my attention a long time ago, I think one of the first times that I mentioned it, that Miss Marple is actually a side character in this book, which was disappointing because part of the reason why I love the Hercule Poirot ones are because Hercule is such an awesome character, and I immediately like gravitate towards him, and I feel like Agatha Christie can do that very well, and I was excited to do that as well with Miss Marple, but I didn't really get to because she's not the main character in this book, and she's not who we experience the book through. So we experience this book through the vicar. There is a man who is murdered in the vicarage in his office, and so it is a small town. So you get that small town feel where everybody knows everybody's business and everybody's trying to figure out what happened. I will say that, as always, Agatha Christie was able to get me. I sort of fell for what all of the characters except Miss Marple fell for in this book. I didn't question things like I should have questioned them, like I should know to question them with Agatha Christie. She managed to make a simple murder complex and interesting, and I enjoyed it, though like I said, I really wish that Miss Marple would have been the main character because I feel like I would have connected with her more and enjoyed the book itself more. This was just okay, but I'm very excited to continue to read Miss Marple mysteries and see how I like her, sort of in comparison to how I like Hercule Poirot. I did a reread this time around as well, and I read Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. I recently read Northanger Abbey, which I will link above and down below my discussion of that one. Pride and Prejudice is like my favorite book of all time, so there's really nothing else that I can say about it except that I love it, and that I have been in the mood to read very comforting reads, and this is one that I always gravitate towards when I do. I'm rereading Harry Potter. In my last wrap-up, I talked about how I read Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, and that was very comforting, and sort of that's what made me want to pick up Pride and Prejudice as well, and I did listen to it on audiobook, and it was great. I loved it. I love Lizzie and Mr. Darcy, they're just my fave. Then I read The Hate You Give on audiobook. I read this while I listened to this while I was on the cruise, and I mean, again, what else can I say about it? The hype is definitely right. It is worth the hype. It is poignant and it is heartbreaking. I got emotional while I was reading it. It is about a young girl named Star who witnesses the killing of her black friend by unarmed black friend by a white cop, and it is everything that happens after that and her coming to terms with her emotions and learning to get more engaged into her community and how her two worlds collide. She goes to a private school in a wealthy, mostly white community, but she lives in an area that's closer to where there are the lower income people, so there's a lot of black families, a lot of Hispanic families, and so those two worlds are colliding, and she very consciously is two different Stars. She is Star when she's at school and she's a Star when she's at home, and those two worlds collide, and it's about how she deals with that. And it was worth the hype, and it was worth every second that I spent reading it, and I definitely recommend it. And I will link down below some Own Voices reviews that I will defer you to, because they will have a more nuanced way to discuss this book and will have opinions on it that I might not be able to have or express in the way that they would. But yeah, I loved it. It was amazing, and I cannot wait for the movie to come out. And also, I know she finished another one that's coming out soon. I'm not sure when. Angie Thomas did, called On the Come Up, I believe, which I'm very excited about, and hopefully I'll be able to get to quicker than I did The Hate You Give. But yeah, so those are the books that I read while I was on vacation. As always, thank you for watching and for listening. Let me know if you have read any of them and what you thought, and let me know what you've been reading recently, and I love you guys.